I decided that today I would talk about boundaries. And if anybody comes on the stream and wants to ask questions, feel free to post a comment. Happy to be interactive. Boundaries are something which were completely alien to me. I didn't understand what boundaries were when I started high school, or in college for that matter. To me, socializing was this alien thing going on that I didn't understand. I could see people having conversations, but didn't know how to join in, how to connect with people. And I had no awareness of boundaries whatsoever. So people would be walking over my boundaries left, right, and center. I was being bullied and picked on, and I was just confused. I didn't have confidence, didn't have self-esteem back in those days. I used to have bright yellow skin, jaundice, lots of spots. My mum worked in the same school as me, and I felt like this complete reject. I felt humiliated a lot of the time. And it's not that deep down I didn't have the bravery. It was a lack of awareness. I always treated other people well. This was never a problem. But I didn't know back then how to treat myself well. I didn't understand self-love. I didn't get it. I might have understood it as a word, but I didn't know how to do it. So years and years and years passed where I had no awareness of boundaries, consciously. Although there was a few occasions where I stood up for other people. And I remember those. Remember a guy that I felt sorry for. He got picked on quite a bit. I remember standing up for this guy and being really brave in a moment and putting myself on the line in front of this person that was pushing him. So I have a defender personality, which means that when I see other people struggling, I'm the kind of person that steps in to look after that person. But I didn't know back then how to look after myself. As my mentor taught me, the martial arts of social self-defense. This is what boundaries are. These days I have really good boundaries, and I teach my clients how to get better with this. So the first thing to understand is that boundaries are invisible. You can't see boundaries in another person. When you're close to crossing a boundary, then it's possible to see it. The other person will probably look uncomfortable if you're close to crossing their boundary, because they can see into the future and they're afraid of a mistreatment, an unfair treatment. But to contradict myself, although boundaries are invisible, we all know what fair treatment looks like. We all deserve fair treatment. This is a basic human right. Everybody deserves to be treated with kindness and respect. Doesn't matter what the situation is, whether it's from your parents, other family members, friends, work colleagues, boss, doctor, police officer, coach, client, doesn't matter who the other person is. You deserve to be treated fairly. full stop. And deep down, you know when you're not being treated fairly. Your gut instinct tells you that something's off. Something's not right. And what you can do to get perspective is you can ask yourself the question, if you saw a good friend of yours being treated in the way that you're being treated right now, would you think it's okay? Or would you think this guy is being treated unfairly? It's often easier to see whether something's unfair or not when you take yourself out of the equation and you get that third person perspective. If you could view yourself in this situation, would it look fair? And then it's about having the courage to stand up for yourself in a calm way. So boundaries are important for everybody, especially if you're a kind person, especially in this case. The ideal, in my opinion, is to be kind to other people and kind to yourself. So if you struggle with boundaries, what's a great first step that you can take? A great first step is to evaluate your current social circle and decide out of those people who you actually want to be friends with. You're not required to hang out with any person. You have the right to hang out with people that you want to hang out with. It's a basic right. So if there's people in your social circle and you don't enjoy hanging out with that person or those people, you can distance yourself. Start to spend time with people who you actually resonate with, your tribe, and stop hanging out with bad people or people that are bad for you. So having space from people is an amazing boundary, especially if it's a toxic person. Space is the best way to protect yourself from a toxic person. The next thing you can do is work on your time boundaries. If you find someone draining, and whenever you hang out with this person, you come away feeling exhausted, feeling fatigued, you can decide to spend less time with this person. So a great way you can do this to make it easy for yourself is when you first meet with this person, plant a seed of a later activity that you have planned. And then when the time comes, refer back to that seed you planted to leave the situation smoothly. For example, you might say that I can only hang out for a couple of hours because I have an exercise class later on. When it's getting near to 2 hours, you can simply say, yeah, so I've got that exercise class coming up now, so I'm going to have to leave it there. Enjoy the rest of your day, and you can move on. You're not required to overstay with people when they make you feel drained. I've learned the same thing as a coach with clients. Really enjoy helping people. But one of my habits earlier in the coaching was to stay too long in sessions, to give people too much time. Too much time where they were happy, but I was feeling drained. And I've since learned to give people the right amount of time, go over when it's really necessary and I can see that it's going to really benefit the person, but also to look after myself. So I have a call with a client later on this evening. I'm going to really enjoy the call. It's a 1 hour call. Give it my all for the full hour, and then when the time's up, the time's up. This protects me. So why do we need boundaries? It's to protect your time and to protect your energy. To keep yourself in a good mood. You don't need to accept mistreatment from any person. So never feel like you have to eat it if someone's rude to you. You can just call it out. This is where we get into more advanced boundaries. Of course, it requires courage, but you can call it out. And you can say, when you speak to me like this, I find it quite rude and it triggers my anxiety. So I'd appreciate it in future if you choose to be nicer and friendlier when you're talking to me. When you really stand up for yourself, you'll probably be amazed at how people actually listen and actually take note. I'm not talking about nitpicking and becoming an a-hole, taking it too far. I'm talking about when people are taking the mick, when they're not respecting your time, your feelings, your energy. When that happens, it's only fair that there's a consequence to that kind of action. When someone's being selfish, they're not considering you, and you have equal importance in that relationship to them. That's a time when actions needed, consequences. For example, I don't mind saying it. So I'm in a shared house. 4 of the people in the house. Most people I get on with well, nice and friendly, but not everybody. And there's a guy that said, "Hurry the F up," when I was in the shower the other day. So I took a shower, bit of cold shower at the end as well, bit of cold water, had a shave, and I thought, I don't like that language, doesn't feel right. So I turned the taps on when he was in the shower, so it went cold on a couple of occasions. I could hear him grumbling. He got the message. I also looked him in the eye to be like, I'm not afraid of you, my friend. I'm not afraid of you. It's not happened since, but if it did happen since, I'd have to knock on his door and say, I don't like this language, don't think it's right. I'm being fair and square with you, and I deserve the same back. It feels empowering when you start to practice your boundaries because you realize that you're important. How you feel, that's really important. And you have a huge ability to influence that. If you find other people constantly frustrating, they're making you angry and miserable, it's possible that with the right boundaries, the same people won't be able to hurt you and knock you down anymore. Remember that you have basic rights to protect you. People can't attack you, that's assault. If they do, you can report them. I understand that there's a fear of confrontation, which everybody has. I don't want to get into a confrontation. I'd certainly rather not. But when you're calm with people, you treat them as equal to you. There's no ego. You don't view yourself as above that person or below that person. People listen and they respect it. People understand as well. When people are taking the pee, they generally know they're being a bit selfish in that moment. So when you call it out, they usually accept it pretty fast. So time boundaries, space, hanging around the right people. Of course, in every single human to human relationship, there's going to be a bit of give and take. It's almost like you're holding a rope, or there's a rope between the two of you, and you're both holding one end of the rope. At some points in the relationship, one person is pulling more in that rope and they're taking more than the other person. There can be other times where you're pulling more and you're taking more. So overall, you want a good balance where it's equal. That's the ideal. Every person has equal value at the core. I don't believe in hierarchies. So imagine there's like a tug of war going on in a relationship. It should be completely even because no one's better than anybody else. But because we're not looking for perfection, there's going to be times where someone's giving and someone's taking unequally. As long as it doesn't go on too long and become a pattern, I've learned that this is normal and this is fine. But if something becomes a pattern, then it's best to call it out. For example, if I look at my coaching business and draw from this, there's times where one guy was a regular client, booking one session a month. Really nice guy, really enjoyed coaching him, and he got good results, still working with him. Then there was a few months where he booked a session and flaked last minute. 2 months in a row. I thought, okay, it's now a pattern. The first time, I'm an understanding guy. These things happen. Sometimes a double booking happens, but not a second time. Now it's a pattern. Then I worked out a new agreement where he had to pay me up front just to secure a slot in my calendar. Great. Now we've got back to even on that rope between the two of us. Now it feels right. It's actually kinder to have good boundaries. Because if you don't, what happens is you secretly build resentment towards the other person. You start to hate them, you start to feel bitter, you start to feel angry, and it's not healthy. Would you want somebody else to hold resentment and hostility towards you? Or would you rather them have good boundaries and view you in a positive light? If it's the second option, that's telling you why it's important to have good boundaries. If you don't have boundaries, it affects the quality of the relationship. The other person might take too much. Then you'll feel that inequality, that unfair treatment, build resentment towards them. And that resentment will just build and build and build. And it's not healthy. The relationship quality has gone down because you didn't communicate openly and honestly. You didn't get out what was bothering you. So it's kinder to call things out. If you feel upset by someone's behavior, you can tell them that behavior made me feel upset. I didn't like it. So in future, I'd appreciate you not doing this. It's kind to have boundaries and call things out because you're maintaining the quality of that relationship. You're honoring yourself. You're not abandoning yourself. You're saying that how I feel is important. And by you having good boundaries in relationships with people, you encourage them to have good boundaries back. It's a permission factor. I'm allowed to call stuff out if it's bothering me, and so are you. It feels good to give, and it feels good to be kind to other people. It also feels great to be kind to yourself. I remember reading Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, which is a classic self-help book by psychologist Susan Jeffers. Brilliant book. And the phrase that comes to mind from this book is not to leave interactions as the helpless victim. And this means not to be walked all over. Now, on the flip side, I'm not saying don't trust other people, don't be cooperative, don't treat others well, never let someone go in front of you. I'm not talking about viewing life as a competition and living from the ego. That's too far. That's too extreme. I like to have positive assumptions about people in general. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt where I can and be understanding. I don't like the idea of constantly feeling that life is a competition. That's stressful. It's much nicer to feel like everybody is on the same team. We're all teammates, we're all equal here. So I'm not saying go to an extreme where you're really, really militant, you're nitpicking, but also to know that when you want to leave a conversation, you can leave a conversation. When you want to stop being friends with one person and start being friends with somebody else, you can do that. It's okay. Something that my mentor taught to me, which stuck in my mind. Kids naturally get socializing right a lot of the time. It's normal and natural for a high school kid, a primary school kid, a primary school kid especially, to say that I don't like hanging out with this person. I want to hang out with this other person. No one gets offended, and it's fine. Kids know that they have this freedom. You can choose who you want to hang out with. That's normal. Just like you can choose who you want to go out with, providing that the other person is also interested. You have that choice. You can certainly choose who you don't want to hang out with and who you don't want to go out with. You can choose where you don't want to work. You have a lot of choice in life. Something that I've realized over the years that is true for, I think, most people, Certainly, everybody that I've coached, you can be a ton braver with people. You can be a hell of a lot braver with people and a hell of a lot braver in life, and everything's fine. Everything goes better. So, boundaries are a tool to look after yourself. Calling things out. This is really important for feeling good. Addressing those little issues. Maintaining the quality of relationships. And it's about you being yourself and doing what's right for you. It's not unkind to stop being friends with somebody. It's not unkind to put your boundaries up. When I started to practice boundaries, I'd feel guilt. Guilt would just flow in my body because it was completely new to me and I didn't want to become an a-hole. I didn't want to go too far with it. So I'd feel this guilt. But over time, I started to feel self-love. That's when you know you're doing it right. Trust other people to understand. So, what are boundaries all about? You could say fair treatment, protecting and maintaining fair treatment. That's what it's about. And what I'm saying is, if there's people that don't treat you fairly, you can stop hanging out with them. That's one option. Spend a lot less time with them. Call it out when they're treating you unfairly. Say, I appreciate, I would appreciate it if you stop speaking to me like this. Triggers my anxiety, makes me feel uncomfortable. So you can call it out, confront people. And this is really how you become a boss in your own life. And it will make you a much kinder person. Less anger and frustration towards others. If you're accepting unfair treatment from other people, you're going to hold anger towards those people. You're going to be carrying that anger around with you and just feel frustrated in life. How many people do you see walking around looking miserable, angry, and frustrated? A lot of people. But when you have really good boundaries to protect yourself, you're going to be able to let go of that anger. It's almost like the unfair treatment comes towards you, you turn it around, and you reverse the direction of the energy. You bounce it back. You say, "No, I'm not accepting that. That doesn't feel good. It's not right." So having good boundaries makes you a kinder person because you hold on to less anger towards others. It also makes you a calmer person for the same reason. People with social anxiety tend to be really good natured people. I have a social anxiety group that I've built up over the years by putting on coffee socials in Birmingham. And I have over 700 people in this group. And I run live events every month in Birmingham. 2 live events on the last Sunday. Decent turnout of people. And I've noticed that It's really, really good-hearted people, kind people. And a common trend is people pleaser tendencies, where people put everybody else first and themselves last. And when I can get these people to reach a happy medium, a balance where they're being kind to other people and kind to themselves, they feel a lot more confident socializing in general. If you feel that you're going to get walked all over and people are going to pick on you, that could put you off going out there and socializing. But when you've learned the boundaries and tools to protect yourself, which you get from real world experience and practicing these things, it's going to increase your sense of inner security, because you know that you don't have to go out there and tolerate unfair treatment. Hope that you've enjoyed listening to this stream, this video. If you're someone who is potentially interested in receiving one-to-one coaching, or you know someone who you believe that this kind of work could help out, feel free to drop me an email. Happy to get in a call, have a chat, and see how I can help and support you in your journey. Until next time, keep on going. Boundaries take time to learn, but they're so worth it, so worth the effort. Have an awesome rest of your day.